Hello, I'm Jennifer Thornberry. I'm a former journalist and I've taught journalism classes at the college level. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what feature writing is and the differences between feature stories and news stories. Let's start with a quick question. Did you read some news source today? Whether it was a printed newspaper or a magazine or your favorite website? What stories did you gravitate to? Which ones captured your attention? Perhaps you read a few news stories. Perhaps you noticed a feature story that you wanted to read. Maybe you read it while you ate breakfast, or maybe you decided you'd read it later. News and feature stories are the two major types of journalistic stories. You probably read them both all the time. Let's delve a bit further into the differences between the two. First, let's talk about what is feature writing. Here's a definition. It's the craft of telling true, interesting stories about real, interesting people using good writing skills and sound journalistic principles. Notice the bolded phrases in our definition. Let's talk about those for a minute. What are good writing skills? They include a good lead that recognizes and engages the reader. They set the tone of the story and they tell what it will be about. So once the lead has your attention, then the story needs to keep you engaged throughout. The story needs to stay focused and organized, so you'll read to the end. Finally, the story should be well edited. How often do you notice errors in a news story, whether it's in the printed paper or on a website? Does that bother you when you see a glaring spelling error or a grammar error? It bothers me. So the story should be free of spelling, grammar, punctuation, and sentence structure errors. Journalists also use Associated Press style, or AP style, so the story should adhere to that style system. Our second bolded phrase was sound journalistic principles. The first of those principles is objectivity. This means that a journalist should choose sources with whom they do not have a dual relationship, with whom they can interview and be objective about. It also means stepping back from the story and keeping the journalist's opinion out of it. The next principle is fairness. That means telling both sides of the story and giving all sources in a story the chance to speak. The third principle is accuracy. That means checking and double checking your facts, your name spellings, and your quotes. Most of us don't get our name in print very often, if ever. When we do, we want to make sure the journalist has double-checked the spelling of our name. There's nothing worse or more offensive than seeing your name misspelled in print. The fourth principle is interviewing and research. This means finding good, relevant sources that really add authority to a story and really support the story. This means the journalist shouldn't just Google for the first source they might see. The last principle is human interest or news value. The story needs to be interesting to people. It needs to be something they want to read and something they want or need to know. We can understand feature writing better by contrasting it with what it is not, and that's news writing. News stories are what you need to know. They're usually on the front page of the newspaper or on the website. They might be labeled breaking news. They're the most recent news of all types: local, national, international, politics, business, or any number of other categories. You usually scan them quickly for the facts and relevant quotes. The reason you can scan them quickly is because of the way they're written. A news story is written in an inverted pyramid format. It looks like this. The lead includes 5 W's and H. That's a journalistic term that means who, what, when, where, why, and how. Then the most important details are given in the next few paragraphs, and then the least important details in the next few paragraphs. You could skim an inverted pyramid story, you could read perhaps the first 3 or 4 paragraphs, and you would have all the essential facts that you need to know. By contrast, feature stories are what you want to know. They're sometimes found on the front page of the paper, especially in your smaller community newspapers. But newspapers will also often have a section called, appropriately, features. Feature stories also appear in sections such as business, religion, food, careers, or any number of other sections. They are also found in magazines. In fact, magazines are pretty much all feature stories. These are the stories that you linger over. You take your time with them when they strike your interest and when you have time to sit down and read them. Feature stories are written almost the opposite of news stories in the upright pyramid format. It looks like this. The lead contains the hit, which stands for hook, idea, transition. The hook is what pulls the reader into the story. The idea tells the reader what the story is about, and the transition carries the reader from the lead and into the rest of the story. Then the next few paragraphs increased interest and tension, and the last paragraph gives a final statement of some sort that ties back to the lead and creates a nice little package. Now that we've gone through the differences between news stories and feature stories, you'll be more aware of those differences the next time you sit down to consume whatever your favorite media is. I'll leave you with a question. Which do you prefer to read and why? Do you prefer one or the other, or do you read both? Think about that the next time you go to your favorite news site or read your morning newspaper. Thank you for watching.